Welcome to Sustain This, a podcast where we discuss mindful consumption, personal style, and the quest for living a more intentional life. I'm Alyssa, a sustainable stylist.
And I'm Christina, a shopaholic turned minimalist-ish.
And I'm Signe, a color consultant and slow fashion style coach.
Together, we will unpack the nuances of what it really means to be a conscious consumer and find more joy in what we have right now. So grab your tea, your coffee, or whatever floats your boat and join us in the conversation. Let's go. Yay.
Yay.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We have a really interesting topic to start with. We're just going to jump right on in. I hope everyone had an amazing new year, and we hope you're all feeling good for 2024. Christina, through a TikTok friend, found this really cool article. I'm going to let Christina shout her out when we have a minute. But on... Oh yeah, go for it. What's her name again, Christina?
Oh, so she is Vic Filippini on TikTok, VICFILIPPINI. We'll make sure to leave her in the show notes. She's great. She's got great style, and she just shared the breakdown of this article, and I thought it was so great. So good that we definitely needed to talk about it here. So that's what we're going to do today.
So the article is titled How to Build a Sustainable Wardrobe to Get You Through 2024 and 2034. And we all just had a really good read. And the theme around this article centers around emotional durability. And what I found the most interesting from this article was how the author really talks about the idea between psychological obsolescence and functional obsolescence. And I think, on this podcast and a lot of content out there we talk a lot about look for quality over quantity, but the emotional piece and finding clothing that you really connect with and that aligns with your values, that's a lot harder to pinpoint. And this article goes into that really, really well. They actually give us 5 or 6 tips on how to do that, how to look beyond the physical. What did you think?
Yeah, these tips were too good not to share. And the one thing I do, so really quickly, let's break down what do they mean by functional obsolescence versus, what did they say, psychological obsolescence?
Yeah, so they talked about how functional obsolescence is, if you think of it in terms of technology, like an iPhone 10 is no longer, things are built with this functional obsolescence designed into it so that we have to get an upgrade the next year. And so that paralleled in fashion would be, for example, remember when millennial pink was a big thing, and now then it was no longer stylish like the next year. So that's what we mean by functional obsolescence.
And I like the breakdown of what he talks about in the sense of emotional durability, because they mentioned in the article that, and this blew my mind, which is so true. Like, think about anything you've ever bought when it comes to your wardrobe, and it's the sense that we are consumers of meaning, not matter.
Yes, yeah. I love that.
And I'm just like, and it really, when I read that, I was just like, wow, okay, just think about everything that we've talked about on this podcast or anything you've ever bought. Like, you're buying a feeling, or you're buying an identity, you're buying something. And I've also talked about, like, I've also mentioned, this is why it's so difficult to stop shopping or to impulse buy less. And it's because we can be as rational as we want when it comes to shopping, but a lot of times it's our emotions that we have to deal with. And the idea of what that thing means when we buy it and when we own it, and what it means for us, like how it shifts our identity and builds that. So, I just think that's like a really powerful way. To me, it really like revealed so much about why we shop, and also why it's hard to stop shopping, and why it's so easy to get caught up in continuing to buy new things. Can we break down a little bit more what emotional durability means? Because I thought that was a term I've never heard before.
I understood it. And I mean, I think it's so hard, right? Emotional durability. But I think it's such an eloquent way to put into words, I think, what we've been talking about, and what some other like really cool people talk about, like Amy Smilovic talks about, like the fact that like you were supposed to dress, or not we're supposed to, but like she talks a lot about like the feeling that a certain garment or an outfit evokes. And I like how in the article it mentioned, you know, you get excited about the garment today on the day you buy it, but you're equally as excited, maybe not equally as excited, but even in 10 years, when you reach for that garment and you put it on, you're still really satisfied and you feel really good about it.
I think as it also as like being able to look beyond what is trendy. Like today I'm wearing skinny jeans, and I just posted like a story yesterday on Instagram, like skinny jeans are not dead, okay, regardless of what everyone else is trying to tell you. And I got so many like positive like messages and comments from people replying to that. Yes, I love my skinny jeans. And I think that's definitely part of it, like being able to wear something and keep wearing it, even though supposedly it's not like super trendy anymore, like at least not for now, because who knows, like in 5 years, maybe skinny jeans will be back. Like we thought apple bottom jeans were dead, but they came back too. So it's like
boots with the fur.
I think it's definitely part of it, like being able to feel very confident in like almost having a signature style and like being confident with that no matter whatever might be trendy right now.
I think that's such a big part of it, like the emotional durability. It's like you really have to have a strong point of view and be okay with it. I think that's the second half, right? Like having a strong point of view, great. But it's an entirely different thing when you are constantly stepping out and putting it out into the world when maybe, you know, you could still be unsure of it and things like that. But that's always something that I think I've mentioned before. We've all mentioned this before. It's like, okay, maybe something is trendy, maybe something is new, but is it a classic for you? Do you like it? Like, great. And even the whole like, this is an essential wardrobe item, but like, is it your essential? And that's what to me emotional durability means. Like really not caring about what's being dictated by publications or TikTok or whatever, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Same thing with those like styling do's and don'ts that we've been talking about so much. I feel like it kind of circles back to that, because it's like, okay, well, maybe we should talk about how we consume those kind of like style rules and style guides, because what it really comes down to is personal style. Like that's really what we should be talking more about.
Yeah. And I think like also the license to be brave and to like experiment and create a bad outfit. It kind of because I posted a TikTok the other day, and it's interesting because like some people are like, "Oh my god, I love your pants and your outfit," and then I'm getting a bunch of other comments being like, "Why would you put that together?" And I'm like, you know what? It's just like you just try. Who cares? Like if it's a bad outfit, it's a bad outfit. You can change out of it. Like, you know. So I think there's also that too, in the sense of just being playful and just trying things out. Like you have to like, there's going to be so many like flops along the way, and that's why this is like a learning journey and evolution, and like something that you want to try. Like a pair of pants that I've never worn yet, how is this going to go with a pair of loafers? How is this going to go with this? It's just like, just play. Who cares, you know? Yeah,
totally.
It just makes me think of that too. Like it's all such a journey of trial and error, and I feel like there's this pressure to find the perfect piece, the perfect wardrobe essential, the perfect outfit every single time, and it just doesn't work that way.
No. Yeah. Those are all great points. And I think it brings us back to the whole idea that fashion is fun. It should be fun. You should be allowed to play and experiment free of judgment. So
yeah.
I loved the list they gave in
So in the article they break down six tips to build to what to look for in a piece when you want to build physical durability and emotional durability. So you can use this when you're looking to add something new to your wardrobe, or I would say even if you're looking at your current wardrobe, if you want to edit it down, if you're thinking about decluttering. A lot of us are doing that in the month of January. So these are all things that I think very helpful things that we can look at our clothes to see if they stand up to the test.
Yeah. And can I just say, I was talking about this before we started, but that list is very oddly in parallel with finding a boyfriend or like a solid life partner. I have to say, like, if you read them, like, look beyond the physical. Like, buy things.
Yeah, let's get into
well.
it. Everybody keep it in mind as we go through this list, and then
build attachment.
Build, go slow.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, at least for me, I'm sure everybody has different ways they want to date other people, but
yeah, it depends what you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, should we go through it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one was look beyond the physical, which I think is a really good reminder. Like I said, we talk often about like, look at the blend, look at the construction, all that stuff. But ultimately, when there's a story behind the piece or when you have some sort of emotional connection to it, then I do think it has more of a lasting impact. And I often find this is where, for people who travel, those pieces, if you think about them, if you really make sure to be mindful when you're shopping on a travel, those can be pieces that become very special because they have a cool memory attached. They're very unique. So they kind of, I find those travel shopping is good for that.
That's why I'm really, one of my style intentions for 2024 was to shop secondhand first before turning to, and whether that be like shopping something secondhand that's new on the market now and trying to find like a used version of it, or shopping vintage and thrifting and things like that. But like, I think it's so much fun. That's part of the appeal to thrifting and secondhand shopping for me, and shopping at flea markets and vintage shops, is like, there's a lot of these pieces have a story attached to it, or you wonder who owned it before, or like it's I remember I thrifted this leather kind of messenger bag in Amsterdam a few years ago, and when I brought it home, there was like a crushed up cigarette in it and some pills for upset stomach in it. I'm like, oh, did the girl who owned this have IBS? Did the girl who owned this have IBS before, or like stomach problems? And like there was like a Metro card in there, and so it was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, this person who owned this before seems like a really cool person, like an interesting person, and now I have this bag. I wonder what the story is behind that. And so buying things with a story, whether it's a story that's connected to you or a story that you kind of create around it that you wonder about, I think it creates as he says, it creates that connection and that emotional meaning behind the piece.
Yeah.
And I think this. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I think the story like can be created through time when you hold on to a piece as well, because that's how I feel with some of the pieces in my wardrobe that I've had a hard time like giving up on. Like I've mentioned my Acne Jensen boots a couple of times, and I was actually so close to like giving up on those last year because they're just like so worn and so beaten. But I love them so much that I decided to like, no, they have so much meaning to me. Like also historically, I've been traveling with them, and they've been with me to so many events that now it's just, they have so much meaning to me beyond the physical.
Yeah, like you're the one who created the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's cool. And I know, Christina, one of your other intentions. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
okay.
Please.
No, I was going to say, I remember one of your other intentions for the year was to shop in person. And I feel like that could be, just like holding and touching the clothes and feeling how it looks on you could also maybe make this a little bit more like you really feel if you're connecting with the clothes as well.
Yeah, because I think when you put something on, like for me at least, when I'm trying something on and I really like something, it is a hell yes, right? Like there's hell yes, hell no. And then if you're kind of in the middle, it's probably a no. So, and I've definitely experienced that when I've tried something on. It's just like, yep, love it. I feel great. It looks great. Like there's reasons, like again, like you're when you're buying something or even putting together an outfit, you're buying a feeling and creating a feeling. So, and if you think about it, whenever we get dressed, if an outfit, like, we never say it looks off. You might say it looks off, but I would say maybe more often we say, oh, this feels off. Something feels not quite right. So I think this really ties, like, I feel like all that really connects. And so in a sense, when you're looking beyond the physical and creating and connecting to an emotion with a piece, basically their argument is that when you have that, you're less likely to get rid of it, and it's more likely to stay in your wardrobe for longer, which I think, Sina, with your boots, like, there's a perfect example.
Yeah. And another thing that Sina said really ties into the second point: buy things that age well. And I remember, Sina, when we were talking, I forget which episode it was, but it was one of our recent ones, and you said, you know, when you're making a purchase, consider what it'll look like after the shoes have been scuffed or whatever. And that blew my mind. That stayed in my head forever. What do you think of this point?
Imagining that piece in the wash bin, you know, or with like if it's like a sweater, if it starts like pilling and stuff, like because clothes will ultimately get worn, and that's just how it is. Like, even the most high quality piece will get signs of wear. Like, you cannot ever avoid that. So it's definitely a balance between looking like new and then looking worn. Like, there's always a balance there that need to be considered, because I think sometimes people think, okay, well, if I buy a high quality wardrobe, or if I, like, quote unquote invest in like higher quality pieces, then they will stay like new or look new forever. And that's definitely not the case. But yeah, there's a difference between buying like cheaper quality. We talk, Alyssa, you mentioned like different kind of fabrics and you know, some fabrics will look really worn out after a few times of wear, and others might look just like worn and not worn out. Like, there's a big difference between those two, I think.
Worn versus worn out.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
The third was pay attention to how clothes make you feel.
I feel like this is probably the most important one.
I think so too.
Keep yourself out of the hype, and maybe, again, we've talked about that before, pausing and then seeing if, you know, okay, well, if it's not trendy anymore, will I still love that piece just as much?
Yeah. I think this too is one where it's, you know, I think we've talked about this before, but like in a way there is kind of a benefit to being a bit more materialistic about your clothes and really loving them, because, again, when you have that emotional connection, you do tend to keep them and maintain them for a lot longer. And then here they mention, in the article, they do mention Maria Kondo's, like, you know, if it doesn't bring you joy, then you're likely not going to want to keep it. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I think it also, I feel like we mention Alison Bornstein a lot, but she's like so cool and so talented. But she mentions, I think in her book, I haven't read it myself, but I saw someone sharing like a snippet of it in a story on Instagram, that if you don't know yourself, like really that's where the work begins. Like, you need to know yourself and start like, start with yourself, and that goes beyond what you're wearing. Like, it's like a sense of confidence in who you are as a person. And I think that's really where it starts. Like, of course, you can use clothing as a vehicle to like feel more confident too, and to get you to know yourself. But I don't know. I feel like it's really important to get to know who you are too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you do that by choosing clothes that ultimately do make you feel a certain way, the way you would like to feel sometimes, or the way you do feel. And I think that this is an interesting one to talk about, that kind of difficult place where if you are trying to fill a gap, and maybe it is somewhat urgent, and you really do need a functional piece, or maybe you struggle with finding clothes that fit. So maybe that's like more heavily weighted than how something makes you feel. So it's not always easy to find a piece that you connect with. And I just think I just wanted to spotlight that a little bit. Because sometimes, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Like I've been in a situation where it's like, look, like I actually have this hole. It needs to be filled. So I go, and actually I'm trying to think if that's happened. And like I've only looked at fit and durability and value, and it's like, okay, this is the winner. Like I gotta go with it. So
yeah, and I think that's I'm sure that's a struggle that I see a lot in the plus size community too, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of brands don't even have sizing, so it's like my priority is to find, that priority is to find something that actually fits that you can wear and move throughout your day. And then, sometimes the feeling that it invokes or like the aesthetic of it comes secondary just because the pool of choice is so much smaller and underserved. Yeah.
Number 4 is my personal favorite, shop slowly. And I think this isn't highlighted enough in the media, even within the sustainable and slow fashion media space. I don't think we bring enough attention to the fact that you won't build a sustainable closet in like a month, a year, maybe not even a few years. No. Like it is, as you mentioned, Christina, like it's this constant evolution. We are always experimenting, and as humans, we're always changing. So here he says, give yourself time to build a wardrobe, at least 5 or 7 years, and shop slowly.
Yeah.
I feel like
and
that's
I think
accurate.
That's like, it is accurate. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm like even thinking about when I started committing to get, like when I committed to getting out of debt, that was in 2019. And within that time, that's when I was decluttering my closet, getting rid of things. I feel like that's when I sort of defined my own personal style. Like that's when I kind of realized like, oh, you're like a blazer girl. You're a jeans girl, like you sort of define what you like. And then since then I've spent time sort of rebuilding things out, but just in a way that, like from this perspective, I was kind of almost thinking about this year. Like I've done a lot of decluttering, and I am an advocate for a lot of that. Like get rid of what's in the way so you can see what remains more clearly. And I'm a huge believer that for a lot of us, everyone has a style fundamentally to begin with, or, whether you feel that you have one or not, as you've said before too, Sina, right? But I think that your style is already in your wardrobe, and then it's just a matter of adding things in here and there to build out from that. But this year I was kind of thinking, I'm like, I don't want to declutter any of my stuff. Like I don't feel this urge to get rid of, because I don't want to say I love everything, maybe, but I'm thrilled about my wardrobe. I'm excited about it. I want to be able to rotate through it and wear, just these crazy blue pair of pants like 2 years from now, so I just don't feel this need to get rid of and to keep editing down, because I just want to wear everything that's in there, which is it's a new and exciting feeling. And I feel like that's taken time to get there,
Yeah.
Well done, you. That is so cool. A good feeling.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, but it does take time. Like I feel, sometimes I'll have like the minimalist police like saying, you've really bought a lot of stuff over the years. And it's like, yeah, it's been like 7 years since I started my channel. So like, of course, I've bought new things along the way. But yeah, I would agree. Like, I feel that's really the whole process I've been sharing through those 7 years. And I feel like I'm like you, Christina, I'm at a really good place with my wardrobe. So yeah, it does take time. Yeah.
And I think also,
but I like, I was just going to say, like, the actual time frame of like 5 to 7 years. I feel like I haven't seen anyone really mention that. And like, yeah, I think that's a reasonable time frame, and like a minimum.
Totally.
Right? A minimum.
Totally. Because it also depends on what you're going through in life. Like, I think my wardrobe was like that at a point maybe like a year ago, and then last year I think I lost a little bit of control. So it depends what's going on with you and your body and all that. And I think I liked how in the article they're saying like the challenge is to move on from the honeymoon phase. Don't we know it? Don't we know it?
Yeah, baby.
With every new item to the longer, richer, and more emotionally resonant period of cherishment. And I don't know, I just think this goes to one of our points that we talked about in a recent episode about giving space to your new purchases to actually enjoy them. And I think this constant pattern of buying, it robs us of the opportunity to actually get to that, God, I love this, emotionally resonant period of cherishment. Like, it does. We don't, like Sina's acne boots, like, maybe she wouldn't have had as many cool experiences in them if she, you know, had already purchased like a new pair to replace them with. So
yeah,
romanticizing our really cool or all of our pieces could be a good thing.
Yeah. I like and sorry, he just mentions it, like, to summarize, you treat your wardrobe as a long-term project. That's straight from the article, and I really love that because I was also thinking about, like, I'm probably gonna do like a whole YouTube video about this or whatever, but like, I kind of realized this year that, or even a few years ago now, that I don't want like a typical minimalist wardrobe. Like, that's, in my opinion, that's not in my lived experience and what I want. I realize it's not for me. That's kind of why I leaned into more minimalist-ish, and like almost like feeling like I had to like justify the fact that I like to have a lot of clothes and I like shopping and like all that stuff. But I just kind of came to accept that that's who I am. That's what I like. And it doesn't mean that you become this like hyper consumer, and like, it doesn't give you license to do that freely, because it can just create a lot of confusion, as I've experienced myself too. So, but I was thinking, like, what's my goal with my wardrobe? And I was looking back, and I used to watch the do you ever watch the British Vogue Inside the Wardrobe? With like, they had one with like Camille Rowe and Caroline de Maigret.
Oh yes,
like, was it on YouTube?
On YouTube,
or
on YouTube? Yes. They're older now, but I even go back and watch them now, and especially like Caroline de Maigret. I'm sorry, I'm like butchering her name, but I just love her, icon. But you know, so she's like an older woman and fabulous, but looking through her wardrobe, it's a lifetime of clothes. It's clothes from her 20s when she was a model to now I think she's in her 50s. So it's like, that's what I want. I want a piece that I want to create, this evolution of a wardrobe that represents like me and my life and like the growth that's gone through it, which is why I'm like, I don't really want to declutter anymore, because I want a piece that I can say I bought in my 20s and take me back to those times and like lessons that I've learned. And yeah, I feel like just my goal is to be just like this hot, cool person you can see the life lived in the wardrobe, and just, you know, constantly decluttering and also constantly chasing trends and chasing things that don't feel like yourself. It's going to be difficult to create a wardrobe like that.
That was really beautiful.
So I just find that really inspiring. That's kind of like my North Star.
I love that.
So it's like, what do you want out of your wardrobe? What's your ultimate goal, you know?
That's beautiful.
I love that, Christina. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. It gave me like a whole new perspective that I'm just like stoked about. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Thought I'd share.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's lovely. It's hard to move on after that. Yeah. Number 5.
I think it goes very well with that, building attachment, like going from what Christina just said into the next point.
Yes, thank you. Great segue. Build attachment. And to Christina's point, and to all of our points, like the easiest way to build attachment to your clothes is to simply wear them so you can interweave them with memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it talks about like cherishing an old college sweatshirt because it reminds you of cramming for finals, or like a jacket because of how it's traveled with you. And I totally agree. I have some pieces that tell a story, and yeah, I think it's pretty special. And it's almost like you kind of picture yourself as this curator of like your own little collection, right? Like your own little museum, your own little like...
Totally.
And I also think that's kind of an empowering thing, you know? It kind of puts us back in the driver's seat of like, no, I don't need to wear this, or yes, I'm going to wear this. And it gives you a little bit more power if you think of it that way, and we feel less like fashion is happening for us and not to us, which, you know.
Ooh, tweet that. That was great. Yeah.
Okay, I marked it. Great.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, or do you think we kind of should we move on to the last point?
No, and I agree. And I think this is something that I had to learn too, and like unlearn, because of the way the relationship I had with myself and treated myself when I was like, a lot of my identity for a long time centered around being a shopaholic and like having a lot of guilt around that, and just essentially a lot of guilt and shame around that. And I decluttered a lot of things from my wardrobe that I felt represented that for me, but there are a few things that I kept. And I used to, well, we talked about that in our episode from season 1, the worst purchases episode. So I talked about this Saint Laurent jacket that I bought that cost more than my rent at the time. And for a long time, I mean, I couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. I mean, probably there were some factors, obviously, probably because of like, you know, holding on in the sense of like, oh, how much I paid for it and this and that. But I really love that jacket, if I'm thinking about, you know, and so I've decided to keep it. And really, I've been trying to change my mindset around that, change the association. So like, some clothes can have bad memories and can take you back to places that maybe you don't necessarily want to be taken back to. But I also feel like there's a positive learning to be gained from some of those things. So it's like, yeah, that coat for me, I can remember the sense of like the cognitive dissonance that I was feeling, and like the self-sabotage that I felt, and like the conflict, the internal conflict I had with myself when I was buying it consciously. But now I'm like, well, look where you are today. You got yourself out of debt. You feel really settled and happy with your style. And it's like, this is part of that journey for me. Also, that jacket just makes me feel amazing every time I wear it. So it has that emotional connection. So I think, of course, get rid of the things that make you feel bad if you can't change that association. But I feel like we have control over that too. Like, we can. So, you know, I think obviously do what feels right for you. But if there's something that you kind of want to keep, is there a way, can you take a positive learning from it and create a positive memory out of that instead of a negative one?
That's a really good takeaway, like reframing how you see the piece.
Yeah.
The last one, which we kind of touched on at the top of this episode, is have confidence in your point of view. So like, know what it is, your point of view, and then be unafraid to share it and wear it.
Yeah. And this is where experimentation comes in, because there might be some flops, okay?
Totally. And that's
speaking from experience.
Because I don't think you can have confidence if you don't test it. It's like anything in life. Like, how can you, you know, like a business idea, you won't know it's good until you try it. So
yeah, I like that. And they mentioned like the most sustainable approach to fashion is having personal style, which I think that's why I think the conversation has really shifted away from like, these are your capsule wardrobe essentials, this is how you build this wardrobe, and it's like, this is how you find your personal style, which is maybe feels very generalized, but it's also where you can take it and take those general points and then tailor it to you to create your own style.
Yeah. Sina, I know you talk a lot about like the identity work in your sessions and things like that. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, I really like what it says in the under the final point in the article. It says that personal style, not fashion, holds the greatest reward. It allows you to invest in yourself, rather than a bunch of ideas of who you should or could be. Which I think, just kind of highlights how important it is that you work with yourself and not just like, because again, like I've definitely felt like fed up with like those really generalized styling do's and don'ts. Like as much as I love them at times, and I can definitely see how you can tweak things, it just kind of, it always bugs me that it's, you know, we're not keeping the discussion, you know, evolving around personal style and like personal point of view rather than just like a general guideline.
Keep it open.
Yeah. And I think that's like when you follow those rules, I feel like there's this, I see this like paradigm, especially online. I feel like in real life, you know, when we're in the real, I feel like there is like literally like an online life and then like a real life.
Yeah.
Some things just don't apply. But online, at least I see, so some of the very common comments that I've seen, especially in like in capsule wardrobe videos I've made, because for example, my style, I would say like one of my style words is classic. So like if I make a capsule wardrobe video, there's going to be like a plain white tee in there, an Oxford button up, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the comments I get is like, well, if everyone buys this, everyone's going to end up looking the same. And I feel like I also feel that extends to those fashion rules, you know, like matching your shoes to your belt and like, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's this huge fear or phobia online about people looking the same in this and having the same pieces. But at the same time, like there's always questions of, oh, where did you get that? How did, you know, tell me where to shop and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. Kind of my point is like, this is why the conversation of personal style is so important and curating your own. And like, yes, you know, if you like a piece and maybe that's what you've been looking for, then, you know, this is the recommendation and definitely check it out. But it's like taking those rules, taking those essentials, and then deciding whether or not it's for you, right? Or taking a piece of it and then adding your own twist to it, adding your own spin. And I feel like the only way you're not going to look like everybody else, even in the same outfit, is that you element, which is your personal style.
Yeah.
It's almost as if, you know, some people have like their height in their like biography on Instagram to have, maybe you should have like your style words so that people know, well, this is like,
that's a great idea.
So if this, so they know this, if you come for this, then this is what you get.
Yes.
Right.
That's such a cool idea. That's what I have to say. Sorry, I don't mean to pitch this or plug this, but that's why I find at the end of my Shop Your Closet workshops, that's why I find it so fascinating. We have this one look that we use as inspo, but everybody else's looks are completely different. So it's like, depending on everyone's 3 words, depending on everyone's closet, like they've interpreted the same one look completely differently. So to your point, Christina, like, yeah, maybe everyone is going to end up owning a button-up shirt, but it's all about, like you said, that you element that you bring to it that's going to make it individualistic. So
no, I think everyone should go give the article a read. Like, like if you want to build a sustainable wardrobe this year, or this should like mark the year where you get started, then I think definitely worth the read.
Great.
Instead of those how to shop your way to a sustainable wardrobe kind of guides. Like this is what
sorry.
I think this is a better place to start.
Agreed.
Quality over quantity, and then what's the emotional connection to the piece too. Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Okay, so thank you everyone. Give the article a read. Let us know if you're watching us on YouTube in the comments what you think. We love reading your comments. And if you are listening to us wherever you listen to your podcast, don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast, because it means you'll get more episodes. Yay.
Yeah.
See you later. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining in our conversation this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple and leave us a rating and review. It's one of the best ways to support the Sustain This podcast at 0 cost to you.
We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topic requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us a DM on Instagram at sustainthis_podcast. We read all of our comments and look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you join us again next Tuesday, where we'll talk about so much more than clothes. Ciao!